Hey there, we're the Westlaw Pirates and welcome to the show. We're here to share our thoughts on Northwestern athletics and college sports with thoughts and analysis from the visceral to the statistical. We run our tailgate with the red pirate flag flying high above as we give no quarter, especially the fourth. I'm Sam Walter.
I'm John Lacombe.
And I'm Eric Skospel.
Oh, we got a great interview tonight. Not going to beat around the bush. We are going to talk with softball coach Kate Drohan, and we're just going to get right to that right now. Well, we are thrilled to be joined tonight by Northwestern Softball head coach Kate Drohan. Really appreciate you taking the time to jump on with us tonight. I know you've been busy, been doing a lot of traveling, and finally about to come home and get a little home cooking playing at the J. But before we get into that, thank you for taking the time to jump on with us.
Thanks. I appreciate the invitation. I'm big fans. I'm excited. I'm excited to hang out with you guys.
I mean, just in transparency, we've known each other for a long time. We've been tailgating next to the softball team for years and years and years, back when we were in the West Lot. And then with everything with the new basketball stadium, we kind of got shuffled out. But now, we're kind of almost next to each other again in the West Tech Lot, which has just been so much fun. And getting back together with you guys, it's been great. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun. And the West Lot, I'm curious to see when the new stadium opens, like if what the West Lot's going to be, like how that's going to work. But I'm a big Northwestern football fan. I love tailgating. It's the tailgating spot that we've had in the West Lot has been a really great source of community for us. Our alums know where to find us. We have a lot of recruits out there, our current families. So it's just been a really neat opportunity for us to build community within our program, and then to get to know, other Northwestern grads and alums and fans like you guys. So it's really good stuff.
We always called it the 50-yard line extended. That was how we always told it to our group. So that was.
See, this is funny because in our mind, we were thinking that this would be one of the things that we would get to eventually, and we're talking about it like immediately, like talking tailgate. I mean, this reunion that we've had right on across from Tech on Sheridan Road now has been such an amazing thing, an amazing experience. And like you talked about the community. We were talking about one thing. Northwestern assistant softball coach Carol Drohan. We have a specific memory just from this past football season of Kat, one of our most loyal listeners, a huge Northwestern fan of all sports, and just a really good friend of ours, going off with Carol Drohan, your sister, in search of a wine opener, just like, and we're just us watching it happen and being like, this is Northwestern. This is exactly what this community is.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like Carol at all. That doesn't sound like something Carol would do. But it's been fun. The stadium over on the lake has been a lot of fun. We've really enjoyed it, and one more season of that. And then, again, we're excited about Ryan Field.
We obviously thank you so much. We know we're catching you right in the middle of the season, right in the middle of all this travel, right in the middle of just the busyness, and right in the middle of a strong run for this team. 7 in a row. This awesome, you went down to Oklahoma City, got this great 4-0 start to the Big Ten season. And obviously, I think we're very conscious over the past couple of years that, I guess you could say that there was an up and down start to this season, but we are very conscious of the fact that you are taking all comers, that you're going out at the start of these seasons and scheduling the very best. And really looking to go to places like Clearwater and play the very best teams in the country. And with all of that said, where, as head coach, what's your evaluation of where the team is at this point in the season? Like, what are you happy about? Like, where are you kind of looking for growth? Where do things stand for you right now?
It's interesting that you say that, because it's been our staple for decades now that we want to go, we do a couple of different things. We want to play really high level competition. And that means we need to find some good pitching to face, right? We want to play teams from a lot of different conferences, so we understand a lot of different styles of play. And then we want to find a lot of venues that are going to make our team uncomfortable, really force them to handle that moment. And, there are moments during seasons where I'm just like, oh, here we go again, and we battle it with our confidence. And especially this year, I can really say that, I think we faced like, I would say 3 future All-Americans already this year. It just really big challenges out of the gate where hitters, it takes them a little bit to get their timing. So that's been a challenge for us. But in the middle of the Louisville trip, and coincidentally, it just happened when the temperature dropped and I saw our team just kind of take it to another level. And our Sunday game against Louisville was probably the first complete game. That game and the Duke game are probably the 2 complete games that I've seen our team play, where I'm like, okay, this is our Northwestern softball brand, right? And then we went to Oklahoma City to start the Big Ten season. And again, I saw our team take it to another level of toughness and grittiness and understanding like moments that we circled during games. We're like, all right, here's a moment defensively that we need to execute. Here's a moment offensively that we need to execute. You can hear in the background my daughter's emptying the Lego bag, right? We're talking about it's a big Star Wars ship being built on the counter in the dining room. So when you anyway, to answer your question, right now where I see our team is they are battle tested. They've had some big moments, but we're really starting to hit our stride in terms of what we believe we can do and what the personality and the strength of this group will be.
It's funny you mentioned that the Louisville series, because obviously I think that was one where we were watching and again, knowing, like you said, like the team that's searching for a complete game. And obviously there was the CMU game to start that weekend. And we were kind of like, oh, shoot. And then it ended with Lauren on the mound against Louisville and us coming out of it being like, oh, man, like there it is. Like that's the thing. And since then, right, like you've been in stride. So we were definitely aware of that as well.
How did the Oklahoma City thing come together? I mean, like we're looking through the schedule and it's like we've got Big Ten teams playing in Oklahoma City. Is that like a weather thing, or is that just, hey, that's where the World Series is. Let's get down there and get a little experience there.
So, with conference expansion, especially Big Ten expansion, we have a national footprint here, which I love. I'm a huge fan. A lot of people have asked me about it. I love that we have Washington, Oregon, and UCLA in the conference now. I think it's good for recruiting. I think it's gonna really improve our conference, obviously, with some national perennial powerhouses there, and everybody's going to get better because of it. But the travel is tough. And also we're just compressed in terms of how many weekends we actually have to play a Big Ten season with our weather. So one of the ideas was to go and play in this neutral site. And really, I think the only acceptable neutral site in my mind is Oklahoma City, right? It's the softball capital of the world. And so that idea was tossed around, and the conference office ended up sticking with it. To kind of create this festival kind of feel. So I'm glad we got the games in, and we love playing on that stadium. I think it's a great experience for our women to get out there and play on that stadium. But right now it's not part of the schedule next year. So we'll evaluate and see what kind of feedback we get to see if we want to go back to it in future years.
Kate, we wanted to hit on, the impact that a couple of players are having this year, specifically who did not have an on-field impact last year for a variety of reasons. And that starts with the returning presence of Lauren Boyd on the mound. She came up a second ago, obviously a leader for this team, a veteran. And I'm caught by the comment you made earlier about putting your team in uncomfortable positions or in stadiums that are going to really, test them, et cetera. What has her leadership meant for this team and really her resurgence as an on-field presence?
I can't answer that question without first talking about last year. Obviously, Ashley Miller was a big reason why we won the Big Ten last year. Really, really special player. But I don't think we win the Big Ten without Lauren Boyd in our dugout. And in all my years, I've never seen a player impact the game more without touching the ball like she did. And she just did such a great job with that big freshman class. Now you look to this year, and she was able to kind of be see the game from a coach's perspective last year. So the game has kind of slowed down for her. And I think that's really helped her on the field, and especially being the leader from the mound.
We were kind of wondering a little bit about this. You mentioned last year that amazing presence she's providing in the dugout, even when she's not out there, and how it's helping a bridge because you have Riley and Renee coming in to pitch, and now you're in a situation where you have Lauren, but then you also have Riley and Renee, and you have like, a veteran leader, as you were saying, and then two young up and coming pitchers. We were kind of wondering about, as a coach, how you juxtapose. We realized, as we're thinking back here, and I guess this is Northwestern fans, I guess, realizing how spoiled we were, but you can go all the way back to 2019, the second Danielle Williams arrived stepped on the mound for the first time, and be like, Northwestern fans can and would argue that for the next 19 through last season, through Ashley Miller coming in, Northwestern had the best pitcher in the Big Ten, and Northwestern fans would argue that, of course, and obviously, of course, the legend Danielle Williams is pulling a ton of the weight there, but you have a situation now where you have a veteran pitcher, you have two other pitchers, and obviously we've seen them all get a lot of work so far this season. Is the approach from you as a coach different, as opposed to a time when you've got Danielle Williams and you're counting on her for X amount of innings versus a season like this where you're giving more work to different players?
Absolutely. And I think we have to really think about how we can utilize our strengths, and how can Renee help us? How can Riley help? Emma Blay, we have a lot of people who can do a lot of different things. And there aren't a lot of pitchers out there in today's game who are last in 7 innings. It's not happening in our game. There are a lot of runs being scored. So we have to sort of shift that model to, okay, who can we use? How many times through the lineup? When do we want to use them during the game? So that's been a really fun challenge for us as a coaching staff. And I like the way our teams responded. They're very flexible, and they're really starting to understand what kind of impact that can have.
You've also got Grace Nieto coming back as well, after missing last season. What about her leadership again coming back? And you've got a lot of youth at the plate as well, but she comes in and really brings that kind of again, more senior leadership. What's her journey as a Northwestern Wildcat been from where you sit, and what's it mean to have her back?
Well, let me ask you guys as softball fans, right? I mean, when she came onto the scene in 2022, as a freshman on that team that went to the World Series, I mean, do you see in her what I see in her? Like, she is a hockey player on a softball field. She is just tough.
Yeah, we were talking about it that and this is something that we want to talk about with you a little while ago, but I think we're all familiar about the fact that there was a massive onboarding of Northwestern fans into the softball sphere in a particular window of time. And for a huge amount of those fans who onboarded at that time, Grace Nieto was the young gun. She was the young one out there and out at second. And now, that's what we were so curious about, because now she is a huge veteran leadership presence where it's like you're counting, and that's what we were curious. Right. Exactly. Like, just from your perspective,
she's so fun.
Yeah.
So if you watch her, she's got her glove up on her face. She's talking to herself the whole time. And in 2022, Maeve Nelson was right next to her, coaching her up like crazy. And now Nito's doing that for Kaylee Avisado next to her. And that's what's really fun. That's like one of my favorite parts of my job is to see those little nuggets passed down generation after generation of what our program's all about, and that's the fun stuff. Doesn't come from me. It goes player to player, so it's been really fun to see what Nito's doing on the field with that kind of mentoring. But also, man, I mean, she just bullied me into putting her in that leadoff spot with what she's done production wise. She's like your typical 9 batter, right? Tough, can do a lot of different things. But man, has she been awesome at the top of the lineup for us. It's been great.
When you said hockey player on a softball field a second ago, I didn't realize that you literally meant a hockey player on a softball field. And other than bullying you into putting her in the leadoff spot, is like, how else does that show up?
Well, it's funny. I was talking with her dad at the airport the other day, and they have a bunch of kids, and he's like, she's been, and a lot of boys. She was the best hockey player out of all the kids. I'll probably get in trouble for saying that, but She did win a state championship in Michigan, I believe, right? Yeah. So, gosh, how does it show up? She's a competitor, and she's just always up for the challenge. She's really steady. Um, she doesn't, she always shows up. And when you have someone like that, you just know what you're going to get every day, and they're that committed to the game and they respect the game and how they compete and their teammates that much. I think that's like our anchor. That's like what's going to set the tone. And if anybody needs anything, they know they can lean on her a little bit.
That's awesome. John mentioned Danielle Williams a second ago, and then you allude to the third player on our list we wanted to talk about, and that's Kaylee Avasado, who's been just an electric college football or college softball star here.
I bet she'd be good at football too.
Yeah, probably. Good at just about anything she put her will against. Just I don't know what other accolades to put there, but like the impact of a player who the moment she hits the field, just is standing out, whether it's on defense, at the plate, etc. How does that land for you and your staff to see, to go out to the East Coast, to pull in a player of this caliber, and then for her to deliver day one?
She's been awesome, and I have to say, her background, her high school coach, her travel ball coaches, just her family, they've been incredibly supportive, and she was so well prepared when she came on campus, like just ready to go. And she loves to hit, and she's a hitter, and she's aggressive, she's decisive. She understands where her barrel is. She's got great zip, just and she's really athletic too, and can run, so really a high level player. We're excited that she's here. I love seeing her every day, and she's a sponge. She's so coachable. She's been great. And, we moved her around the left side. We had a lot of different combinations, and I feel like right now our team's really settled in for her at shortstop. And Bridget, who's another incredible player, really strong defensively and offensively. She's hitting fifth for us and done a great job anchoring the middle of our lineup. The two of them together on our left side, I just think are really, really special players.
Yeah, you said sponge, and I was thinking she's a sponge for line drives. We all saw that catch over the weekend. We were like, wow. And then moonshots and web gems. That's why it's funny. Scuzz mentioned Danielle Williams. We are extremely conscious about not saddling anyone with that and be like, yeah, now just be Danielle Williams. But we all remember that, in February or March of 2019, suddenly being like, holy cow, wow, okay, this is someone who's going to be here for us a lot of us feel like we're having that same kind of feeling watching her play. I mean, it's incredible. We were talking, you got up to this, we mentioned the great start in Oklahoma City and the idea of wanting that warm weather game, and the idea of being like, well, you're limited X amount of weekends because of the weather in this conference. So I guess it's good that you're headed down to Stark. Oh, no, wait. Somehow it says here that you persuaded an SEC team to come to Evanston, Illinois in March. So our question is, one, how the heck did you pull off getting Mississippi State to come up here? Is this a sign of Northwestern's national profile now? Is this some sort of blackmail situation? Like, how is it that we are?
Everybody wants to come to Evanston. All right. So Michelle Gascoigne, who I know you guys know as our pitching coach, and has been part of the program here for a decade now. She's been awesome. She played. Sam Ricketts is the head coach at Mississippi State. Michelle Gascoigne, one of her closest friends from Oklahoma, where she played, is Kaylani Ricketts, who's Sam's sister. So Michelle knows the family really well. Mississippi State had a bye the same weekend, and they do a lot of recruiting in the area. So we're like, what the heck? Let's give it a try. And they said yes. So I think people like coming to Chicago. I think it's really fun. It's a different kind of trip for them. I think we're a great game to play for them, so it'll be a lot of fun to have them here.
You talked about the temperature how Northwestern responded in the Louisville series when the temperature dropped. I wonder if it'll be that way for Mississippi State when the temperature.
I think they'll be fine. I think they'll be fine.
It is funny though. It occurs to me because we mentioned football already earlier on, and that we're just laughing because when the Lakeshore Stadium came in, so many people from outside this program are being like, "Oh, the weather! Like, how are they going to handle the weather and everything?" It's like there's an SEC team coming up to play softball in March. So, like, I think people need to stop complaining about like September weather on the lake.
And the game, every game was beautiful, so everybody was worried about nothing. I mean, the sun will be out this weekend. We'll be okay.
Because you mentioned the stadium on the lake, that's because of all the construction happening at Ryan Field. There's more construction happening. Can you give us an update on the new softball facilities and kind of where we are with that?
Yeah, well, we're really excited. I mean, this has been such an important part of our program, this investment and this upgrade that we need for our stadium here. And Sarah and Kip Kirkpatrick have come through and been incredible leaders and so generous in making this project a reality. The university has done some great work supporting us, and I'm so excited to partner with Mark in getting this done and really doing it in a way that's going to be great for us now and great for us in the future. So our team is excited, our alums are excited, I think our future players are excited, and we're trying to be really thoughtful in designing a stadium that makes sense for Northwestern, that makes sense for our footprint, where we can really pull in some of the elements that are coming in with Ryan Field, some of the cool stuff with Welsh Ryan being tucked right between them. I think it's going to be a really neat feel. I think when you come to the J, I mean, our team loves our field, right? They love playing at home. I think our team loves it because there's a real intimate feel, right? And you feel like you're on top of the action. You feel like you're in the dugout, and we wanted to really keep that intimate feel and to make it a very fan-friendly environment, but also an environment in Evanston where we could do some upgrades to really build a really unique student-athlete experience. So a lot of really cool bells and whistles, and we're excited about it.
We still going to get moonshots on top of Welsh Ryan?
Yeah, the bases are not moving. So the roof club is alive and well.
Love it.
That is really good to hear. We're going to shift gears a little bit and talk kind of more, I don't know if big picture is the right word, but you've overseen a lot of eras at in your program over the years, and had to transition from World Series appearances to a new crop of talent, et cetera. And you've gone through that change a number of times. The 2022 team seemed to be a new high watermark in terms of the profile and the exposure and the magic of that season, and just really captivated the hearts and minds of Northwestern fandom. Obviously, a lot of those super seniors came back the following year. We talked with Sydney Supley about that when we previewed the season, these past couple seasons, and the bridge of culture that has allowed to permeate into the next era, the next group of players. But it's still like coming off of that high watermark. What have been the benefits of that you've used to drive forward the program? What have been the challenges?
So when people ask me about years or about moments, like they want to. This happened a lot after the 06 team, right? And so a lot of people ask me, "Oh, is the 22 team like the 06 team?" Right? And I work so hard to not compare teams or even years, because Maeve Nelson as a junior is different than Maeve Nelson as a senior. Mm-hmm. So I try to really respect each year as its own unique journey. But there are what I can say is there are threads or common themes that I've seen in every championship team that I've coached, right? And I think the two things that stand out that we've sort of really held on to from that 22 team, and the 22 team, they were fun. Like I was able to really coach them hard. and we were really straightforward with each other. So those connections were really tight. And the way I would describe them is they were really good to the game. Like they loved the game, they respected the game, they never took a shortcut. They believed in, like, there was like an old school, they really honored the game, and my father, who taught me the game through the game of baseball, really instilled that in me and in Carol. And so there was a real connection with that. Like, you have to be really good to the game. For example, I saw it with our team this last weekend when we were losing to Michigan State on Saturday, and we were losing 7-4. And I looked at the team in the huddle. I'm like, this is the kind of game we have to win right now. Like, don't be mad at it. We can't be frustrated. This is what the game is asking of us right now. What do we have? And that 22, obviously we won it in extras with Nader's big home run, but that 22 team really embraced it, and they never got mad at the game. And that was really, really, it was fun to be around, really fun to coach. So that was the first thing. The second thing about that team is they were really good to each other. Like, and they took care of each other. They pushed each other. They challenged each other. They held each other to a really high standard. And I think that's the common thread that they've left. That's the legacy that they've left. So you guys talk about Danielle Williams and, all the strikeouts that you saw, but man, I just saw what kind of, how hard she worked every day in practice. And so I was never surprised with what she was able to do in a game, how even she was, how calm she was, how all she wanted to do was take the field and win ball games for her friends. So there's that kind of thing that's like one of my favorite things about coaching, is when you can surround yourself with people who really, really see the game the same way.
One thing we've talked a lot about is how you build a program to kind of last through the evolution of the sport. I mean, as you've seen, how have you seen the game of softball evolving over the past years, and kind of how do you adjust your take on things, your coaching style to adapt to those changes?
I think we're in the middle of one right now, to be honest with you. I mean, the number of runs that are being scored right now in softball games, it's really something. The hitters they're just doing some really neat stuff with some technology and some of the training and some good stuff like that. So I think you just can't get stuck. You've got to be curious about it. You've got to learn. Our staff is awesome. Obviously Carol's done great work, but she's gone out and really exposed herself to some different things. So we do things differently now than we did 10 years ago and 20 years ago. And there are times where Carol's just like, oh, I can't believe I taught that, and she's like, she'll be like, I'm so sorry, but it's like, you learn and you have to be okay with that. We hired Tony Smith, who's Michelle's husband, and he's got a great background with Major League Baseball. So we've learned a lot and pulled in some things from that as well. So you just got to keep surrounding yourself with people who see the game the same way, but also have a really high level skill set that I keep learning from.
We've talked about this. We're fascinated by it because for example, we've mentioned multiple times that we've drawn parallels between Coach Amonte Hiller and Nick Saban in terms of there was a major moment where the game made major pivots and like stylistic pivots, and where Saban suddenly had to embrace offense. Suddenly lacrosse pivoted into the shot clock era and everything very much changed, and like she adapted. Are there specific, so you mentioned, like you said, there's one right now in terms of like hitting suddenly climbing up. Have there been other moments over like the 20, like other major shifts in the game where you were like, all right, this is a pivot point, this is an inflection point that we have to adapt to?
Yeah, I mean, we played in the national championship game in 2006 with 2 pitchers on our roster. Talk about a different game.
Yeah.
And so just the number of pitches that they threw during the length of the game. And so now we go into Alabama, and we in our super regional in 2023, and we don't expect a single pitcher to throw a complete game in a 3-game series. So that's that kind of evolution and understanding how to use a pitching staff, especially across a series. So it's a lot of fun. I think the game is really healthy right now. I think it's in a great place. And I think the fact that it's so well suited for television, I think we're pulling in a lot of fans every year.
That's been one of the things we've, like Sam mentioned, I think earlier, we've been fortunate to have Sydney on a couple of times. And we see her and we watch how much she's working within the softball space. And there's very much that feeling. We can see her being a part of this it's such a TV friendly sport, like you were saying. And like you watch an event like Clearwater and be like, this is like almost like a mini March Madness thing in Florida with all these teams in the middle of the winter, wherever, and we're all watching. We're all like, man, I wish I was there. I wish this was like a big thing. And then just that there will be personalities who help this take off. And we can see that for her. Kind of something related that I feel like we've kind of nibbled around the edges of it a couple times already, talking about like going to Oklahoma City and talking about Mississippi State coming up here and how historically for like an SEC team that hasn't happened too much. But I was recently, my wife is a former Northwestern fencer, and I was recently at an event where she was helping Northwestern fencers honor the legendary coach Lori Schiller, ex-Northwestern fencing coach, and got a chance to talk to him about something that we've talked about on the pod before and just were very fascinated by because we think it's so impressive, which was in his case, he built a program up in a sport where the entire power base and tradition of that sport historically is located in a completely different place from the Midwest. And you could apply the same thing to Coach Amonte Hiller relative to lacrosse. You could certainly apply it to Coach Fuchs relative to field hockey. And obviously we can apply it to you and Coach Drysdale before you, but now you in softball, and be like, the power base, of this sport traditionally is located in the South and is located on the coasts. What does it take? Like, what have been the challenges of building this program in the face of that? And how have you worked to overcome those challenges?
It's been fun. And I can say now that our indoor facilities and how we're able to train all year for our pitchers, our catchers, our hitters, our infielders, like they're getting live reps almost every day. And so that's really helped elevate our play. And when we went down to Clearwater in 2022 and beat UCLA, I thought I really circled that. I'm like, we're able to do this in February, our second weekend out, because of our indoor facilities. So that's the first piece. Also, what's really interesting is Chicagoland has great youth softball, like incredible. It's a really strong base. I love the style of play that Midwesterns learn and play with. So that's been really fortunate for us in terms of recruiting. But I think we need to find people who want Northwestern. They're serious about their education. They love what Northwestern has to offer and the community, the size of the school, but also playing in the Big Ten and also competing for championships. So there are people out there, but I think our recruiting and building up our fan base at home and hosting the postseason at home, I think those have been some key elements for us here in Evanston.
Kate, you mentioned conference expansion earlier and that you're a fan of it. You're excited about it. I think there's a lot of folks that, with everything you just said about competing against, the South, the coast, et cetera, that would look at particularly a UCLA coming into the conference or an Oregon or a Washington as a huge threat, as a huge problem. I am 100% confident you do not feel that that's a problem. Can you tell us why?
I mean, winning is going to be harder. There's no question about that. But I think that's a good thing, right? I think that's going to raise everyone's play. I think it's a good thing because we loved playing those teams every year anyway. We would go out to the Nutter and we would be playing UCLA or Oregon or UCLA and Washington because they're incredible programs, and us playing them is only going to make us better. I've never really built a schedule, like I said earlier, to break a win record. It's about how can we put our team in every position and opportunity possible so that we can be the best version of ourselves come the end of May, and that's what we're working for. So we can be prepared when that Big Ten season kicks off. But I'm excited about it because it continues to build our Big Ten brand and continues to help us elevate so we can get more teams at the World Series.
It's funny, you talk about the profile, like you said, raising the quality of the teams, and like you were saying, like how long Northwestern has gone and sought those games, especially early in the season. And you specifically referenced earlier UCLA in 2022, and again, it's something that you sort of talked about earlier. You talked about that team special from a coaching perspective and the work that you saw and everything. I think from our perspective, there was that huge piece of the magic that Scuzz talked about, and the way that I think for Northwestern fandom, the program grabbed us in February, and that was the thing. Like, you're playing UCLA, you have Maeve hitting the walk-off shot, I think, against UCLA, and that was, and at the time we were all like, this is February, and we are all getting pulled in. And I think of us as a group of guys who ultimately started this pod all those years ago with football on our mind. And then we find ourselves now, I mean, that was a year where we found ourselves being like, all we want to do is talk about softball in the spring. And I think that you have like, there has to be, I guess we were kind of curious, like in that season or the seasons that have come since, like, does it permeate into the team from the outside, the idea that like people are starting to get really excited about what is happening right now? Like that 2022 to be like, wow, people are really talking about this team now and it's really starting to build up. I'm curious if that permeates into the locker room.
Oh gosh. I think I would be naive to say no. You know what I mean? I think that momentum is really important in our game, and we have such an incredible group of stakeholders around our program and families and alums. And I say this to them every chance I get, but their engagement, their presence, their excitement, even their engagement on social media or then sending a note, someone who graduated 15 years ago, sending a note to someone on our players today. That stuff all matters in my mind. And especially with I would call a tight-knit group like Northwestern fans, that stuff really matters. And they seem to like come out of the woodwork, and you find each other, you bump into someone at the airport, you bump into someone, it's just, that's really fun, so I think it means a lot to our team now and in the future, so it's good stuff.
As we look ahead, don't want to take up your entire evening. I mean, I feel like we could just sit here and talk with you all night long, but knowing that it is late, so we want to let you go. But how do you look ahead to the rest of this season? Like, how do you project the Big Ten? Like, where's the power? What are we looking at, and how do you prepare for this? The heart of the conference schedule.
Yeah, I mean, you have to take it one game at a time. And looking ahead to Mississippi State coming in this weekend, it's about us getting back at home. It's about us building on what we've built the last 2 weekends and saying, okay, how can we make our game a little better? What can we do to kind of take another step forward? So our focus is really, really narrow. But in terms of the Big Ten body of work so far, I mean, what Oregon has done so far this year has been great, and obviously we all knew UCLA was going to be good. And then you've got Jordy Ball at Nebraska. And then Ohio State just had a big series against them. You've got a freshman at Rutgers who's thrown really well. So I think what we said this to our team this weekend, and I think what our team embraces, and it's become part of our tradition and they take great pride in, is they respect every Big Ten game. Every game is going to be a battle. And I don't care what it looks like on paper. I don't care who's supposed to win. Like, you want to win a Big Ten game, I think just like in any sport, you've got to show up and work your tail off. And I think our team really understands that. But I'm a Big Ten softball fan. I love watching games and watching scores. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. But like I said, internally and in our locker room, our focus is really narrow.
Well, Kate, thank you so much for taking the time to jump on with us tonight. We really, really appreciate it. Yeah, let's get everyone out to the J. Home slate is starting, and I brought my daughter the past few seasons. I'm definitely planning to bring her up again at some point this year, and very, very much looking forward to it.
That's awesome. If you guys come by, please come to the dugout and say hello. I'd love to see you. And also, like, looking ahead to September, a great football schedule. We'll have to coordinate some menus. We'll have some fun.
For sure. Thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it. And have a great night and go Cats.
Thanks, guys. Go Cats.
Once again, that is Northwestern softball coach Kate Drohan. Amazing to catch up with her. I mean, we were talking with her a little bit before we hit record, and it's like we've known her for so long. It's just like catching up with an old friend.
It is. It's amazing, and obviously, it is an interesting situation for us, right? To finally have her on and be like, this is one of the legends of this sport. This is someone who, as we've talked about, I mean, took the reins from Coach Drysdale and built a powerhouse program in Chicago. I mean, it's like, again, like Coach Drohan explained the logistics for how Mississippi State is happening and the personal connections, etc. But do not in any way minimize the fact that this is an SEC team coming up to Chicago in March to play a softball game because they're coming to play Northwestern. And it is amazing for us to have known Kate for that long and to have tailgated next to her for that long and everything, and then have her on. But at the same time, very much being like, this is one of the greats, and we're so fortunate to have been able to talk to her.
Well, we didn't talk. I mean, we talked a little bit about the season, but this team's on a heater right now. They've won their last 7 games, including 4 against Big Ten competition. They took 1 from Louisville. And they've got this big series coming up this weekend against Mississippi State at home, and then and a game against NIU, and then back into Big Ten. They're the 2-time defending conference champions,
3-time,
3-time defending conference champions, and there's a ton to play for. So like this team is an absolute ball to watch. They're exceptional, and get out to the J, get your Big Ten Plus subscription set up, and catch them down the stretch here.
Yeah, it's
one thing.
Be a lot of fun.
Absolutely. One thing that I think we mentioned, because we sort of talked about it, and we talked about softball for the couple of weeks. You can look and you can see Kelsey Nader is heating up, and she had a big weekend. And we talked about it, that it's like so much of the offense helped, obviously a ton by the incredible debut of Kaylee Avasado. But you've got, Kelsey in Kansas, where obviously all Northwestern fans expect a ton of the offense to come from, just had a little bit of a slow start to the season. And I think Kansas is still in that place right now, but you look at the way the bats were heating up, and it's just like, Kansas is going to get going. This is Kansas Robinson we're talking about. And you can talk, I mean, Coach Drohan's talking about, this team starting to see those complete games, and it's like, this team has a lot more gas in the tank. This team has other gears that it can still get to. And you look and you're like, you get Kansas starts heating up and starts raking, and again, there's so much in front of this team. It's going to be really exciting.
I mean, you heard Coach talk about some of the other teams that are playing really well in the Big Ten. Nebraska's one of them. They come to town April 12th, 13th, and 14th. That series is going to be a barn burner.
Oh yeah.
Mark your calendar. Get your tickets now. It's going to be an absolute excellent display of softball that weekend at the J.
Yeah, we've talked before about this huge date on April 17th, that lacrosse game against Michigan, where we're going to be going for that attendance record. This Nebraska series Scuzz is talking about is the weekend before this. This is a huge stretch in Northwestern sports. This is really top teams, not just in the Big Ten, in the nation, playing big-time spring sports against the top competition. 4 times in basically a 1-week span. So you need to be looking like Friday the 11th, Saturday the 12th, Sunday the 13th, and then Thursday the 17th. This is a monumental stretch for Northwestern lacrosse and Northwestern softball. You want to be thinking about buying tickets. You want to be thinking about getting out to these facilities. It's probably going to be some nice April weather. We will probably be looking to put something together somewhere in this stretch. We will certainly be going to multiple of these games. We're going to figure it all out. But again, you want to mark your calendars. You want to get in on all this. This is big. It's going to be big time softball, big time lacrosse right in the middle of April.
Well, we're here in the middle of March. I for everyone who's been waiting for our bracketology episode with our resident bracketologist, Scott Sepich.
Everyone's like, Coach Drohan, where's Scott Sepich?
We're going to be back later in the week with Scott, so don't worry. You'll be able to fill out your brackets with all the information we're going to give to you there.
We're going to spend some time talking about NU hoops with Scott as well.
Yeah, and I know with the Big Ten tournament this past weekend, a lot of news surrounding that, and we wanted to save that for later. Well, like I said, we'll be back a little bit later on in the week to talk about basketball. But with that, we'll go ahead and leave it there for tonight. Head to our website, westlawpirates.com, where you can leave comments and questions. Find us on Facebook, Blue Sky, Instagram, Twitter, all of the social media at Westlaw Pirates, and you can always email the show, westlawpirates@gmail.com. Tune in next time as we give our visceral and statistical views on Northwestern athletics. And look for us in the west lot of Ryan Field flying the red pirate flag, because we give no quarter, especially the fourth. For John Lacombe and Eric Scasbo, I'm Sam Walter. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time.